The bubbles finished again. The bubbles are gone.
Bubbles are gone.
The bubbles are gone.
I just think it hit me the other day.
Yeah. We could say that Sanhedrin is an illustrious Masechta Shafkita Bubbles. Okay, so we are up to the two dots on the top of Kuf Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the top. Hoitzi Alov Ksav Yodo. A Malva comes with a star that says, I owe you $100,000. I, Yaakov ben Shimon, owe you, David ben Aaron, $100,000. The Mishnah says it's a good IOU note, but it doesn't have the aloch of a star with a coil where you can collect from a shubadim. You can only collect from a nechar. Boy minei Rabba bar Nosan me Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba bar Nosan had the following shaila of Rabbi Yochanan. Huchzik ksav yodi bebes mai. Would it make the star better if it was already verified in Bezdin? As the Rashbam says, la'achar zman shemoser lo haloi v'lamalva. The malva is holding on to this IOU note. After he has this IOU note, ksav yodoi shuchayev le'maman, the malva comes ubava Bezdin v'hoide b'fneim shu ksav yodoi. The malva comes with the loiva into Bezdin, and the loiva tells the Bezdin, in fact, this IOU note is legitimate. I signed it. Then Bezdin makes a declaration on this IOU note. The cost of a loy Bezdin handpick. For nikra shrasa, the kiyamashtar. So now Bezdin signed. We verified that this is a legitimate IOU note, and they signed it and stamped it. What would be the halacha? Would this now take on the characteristics of a milva bishtar? Let's see how the Rashbam elaborates a little bit on this shaila. Mi amrina, harehu mayata kishtar sheyesh by Adam. When Bezdin verify even a star written by the Levi himself with no Adam, but when Bezdin verifies it, does that make it now into a star with Adam? And therefore, v'yigbe mishabdi. Now the Malva using this IOU note, even though there's no Adam signed on it, can be given mishabadim. Because even though it doesn't say beferish achrayis in the star, we know the rule of the achrayis is ta soferhu. The whole star milva umechira shechoispin by edim. Anytime there's a star milva or a star mechira where there's two kosher edim that signed on that star, we know there the halach is goivin mimishavdi ki ilu kosav ben achrayis. Even if the star didn't mention anything about achrayis, we know that's automatic. So therefore, maybe this star that Bezdin were Makayim, even though it has no Edim, it should take on the status of a Milva B'shtar. Oidilma, Kiyum Star, Einimoya L'shum Star. All Kiyum does is it verifies it, that what's written in it is legit, but it doesn't change the Mahos of the star. The Oidilma Kiyum Star, Einimoya L'shum Star, Ela Lachzikoi Bebezdin, L'chamoy Shahaya Mikodim. All it does is it verifies its status. She'im yemusu edim oiloiva. If the edim signed on the star, or the loiva in this case who wrote it dies, lo yucha litain, the loiva or the loiva's children won't be able to claim stars emazuyafu. The Bezdin kaimu, because Bezdin were makaimed, but it doesn't take on a new life. It just means that it's verified. The yigbe by a malva, and the malva can collect. The gamzeh, and so to this IOU note, sure, it's mekuyim, and therefore he can collect with it. But la yigba ela mi b'nei chayrin. You can collect from it only from b'nei chayrin, but not from a shubadim. So what did Bezdin accomplish by stamping it and signing it? That's all they do. They don't transform this star into a new star that would be like a milva star that would allow you to collect from a shubadim. That is the Gemara Shaila. So, Amar Le, Rabbi Yochanan answered, Af alpi shehuchzak ksav yodoi. Even though there's a chazaka of his signature, it means it's verified. Bebezdin, einay goy ve'ela minachasim b'nechayr. All the the Kiyum does, it says that this star is legitimately signed, but it doesn't transform the star into a milva b'star. Moshe from Evarchavash, Rabbi from Asakash. Shloisha gittin psulim v'mnisis avlat kosher. There are 3 gittin that are kosher midaraisa, but midirabonon they're puzzle. And therefore, what if a woman received a get, such a get that's puzzle midirabonon, she remarried based on this get, and she had children? Those children are kosher children. We do not consider them mamzer. The Elohim, and these are the 3 gittin we're referring to. Kosav v'ksav yodai v'ein alav edim. If the husband wrote the get and there's no edim on the get, it's a kosher get, even without edim. Or yesh alav edim v'ein boy zaman. There's edim on the get, but there's no zaman on it. Again, it's only possible with rabbanim. Or yesh boy zaman v'ein boy ela edech. Or if there's only one eid. And then the Mishnah repeats itself and says, Harei elu shloisha gittim psulim. It started by shloisha gittim psulim. It listed them off, and then the Mishnah repeats itself, Harei elu shloisha gittim psulim. But v'mnisis of lat kosher. What does that have to do with our discussion? We will soon see. So let's take a peek in the Rashbam. Psulim li nosei boy. L'chatchila, we will not let a woman remarry if she only has this type of get. Ve'ein alav edim. So now we have a very important piece of information. A get without Edom is not good unless the Mesira occurred, and Edom we're watching. The Edom Mesira Karsele B'di'evet. B'di'evet, l'chatchilo, you need to have Edom signed on the get. B'di'evet, Midaraisa, it'll work if there were at least Edom that witnessed her receipt of the get. That would work. Okay? Zog to Gemara Vayter, Harei Elu, which is repetitious. Begitten mefarish harei elu dereisha, harei elu deseifa lemutemai v'hasem mefarish shakula. In Gittin, we only have about 5 years till we get to Gittin. The Gemara explains why you have the listed shloisha Gittin at the beginning and harei elu shloisha Gittin psulim at the end. Okay, zok the Gemara weiter, zok the Brisa weiter. So when this is havlat kosher, and the Rashbam says lechatchila tisvir le'edem mesir karsi. It's going to be a kosher get, because Edom Mesir Be'etzim works, and therefore, even though the get wasn't done the way we want it to be done, it will accomplish the Gershom Midaraisa. Rabbi Lazar, he holds, Af al pi she'ein olav Edom, even if there are no Edom on the get, Ella she'nosnu la b'fnei Edom, but he merely gave it to her in front of Edom, kosher, and if it was a star milva that we're talking about, that no Edom signed on it, but there were Edom who witnessed the loan and witnessed the star being given from the loiva to the malva, then it's v'goyve minichos mishubot. And here's where we're bringing the raya from. Zokter Rashbam, v'goyve minichos mishubodim. Kloimar, if star milvahu, if it was a star milva that had no Edom signed on it, the ashtar hakasav b'ksav yodoi, and the star was written just by the loiva. The ein by Edom, and there are no Edom signed on the star. El shemasru b'fnei Edom, but the loiva gave the star to the malva under the watchful eye of 2 kosher Edom. That makes it into a kosher star and goyve minuchosim mishavot. The v'hachim efarish hasam Rabbi Yochanan libed Rabbi Lazar. The perkamev itinyana. This is how Rabbi Yochanan explained Rabbi Lazar shita. Shafilu b'shar stories. Never mind the get. Even a star of mominus, like a star choiv, goyvem in the chasim mishubodim be'edai misir bavad. So, what is the conclusion? What do you see from here? Alma haitzi alov ksav yodai shuchayev loy. You see that if you pull on somebody a star that's just an IOU note that's not signed by any Edom, but umasroi b'fnei Edom, but you merely the loiva merely gave it to the malva in front of Edom, then goyvem mishabdi. So therefore, Dr. Gemara, I'm sorry?
But otherwise, it wasn't a case where you gave it in front of Edom. This is the first time we mentioned the case where you gave it in front of Edom.
That's a beautiful distinction. Maybe. So right now, that's a very good distinction. But right now, the Gemara is suggesting that since the since Bezin were Mekayim it, that's even stronger than Edom seeing it happen. Edom seeing it happen aren't verifying my signature. They're not verifying anything. They're not really directly impacting the star. They're just seeing what happened. And that makes it in the middle of a star, according to Rabbi Lazar. Bezdin are commenting on the star itself. They're validating the star itself. So therefore, it should work.
That guy wrote a star, they didn't actually, the transaction didn't actually happen, wouldn't it even be stronger, but they actually saw the transaction happen.
But I believe that Bezdin would not be Mekayim a star unless they verified it wasn't paid back yet. Because I believe when Bezdin verifies a star, you cannot tie the parity anymore. That never
They're not being
happens. Right?
Mekayim the star, they're being Mekayim the Ksar.
Yeah, that's what I.
Right.
They're doing, they're not saying.
Well, they're saying the
They're
star
saying
was
it's
legally
not-
signed. In other words, this star was signed legally, and there
In
was a
his
legitimate
handwriting.
star.
In his handwriting, but maybe it never happened.
Well, the lotion of the Rashbam was that the lawyer comes into Bezdin and says, "This is me. I signed this." If the lawyer never gave the star over, he's not coming into Bezdin. See what I'm saying? See the Rashbam over there? The Rashbam says up on top. La'achar zman shemasol ha'lo v'lemalva ksav yodei shechayv lo, u'ba bebezdin v'hoide b'fneihem shu ksav yodei. The loiv is coming. If he didn't take the load, he's not going to go tell Bezdin that it's his.
That's what it means. Not to accept the other.
That's what Rashbam was.
It's not just, it's his
Well,
handwriting.
the Rashbam's wording is, that's my handwriting. But logic dictates that he's not going to go do that in Bezdin if he never borrowed the money. He would have said, "Yeah, it's my thing. It's my savyad, but I didn't really borrow money. I wrote it because I wanted to borrow money in the future." Bezdin's not going to be a Mekayim star where it comes with that disclaimer. So I'm assuming Bezdin is verifying that this transaction is legit and there's something owed over here.
I just think that Nassim Hayden is just as good as Aiden signed it.
If you hold a Demisir curse. That is what the Gemara is saying. Right? That is what the Gemara is saying. Zok the Gemara back to you. Don't worry, this is not the end of it. We're still going to discuss this one. Arev hayoytze la'achar chitim stories. So here the star was already signed by the Edom, and I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. That's the most important line. And the Gemara shiny husband. Thank you for reminding me. I knew the Gemara had a rebuttal. Still, I wasn't sure where it was. And the Gemara shiny husband. Let me look at the Bach. Shiny husband the b'shas ksiva which is exactly the svara that Mati just said. There's a very big difference between if Adim see me give that get, and if after I write it, we go to Bezdin and verify. Because if at the time that I'm giving the star, I want to create a shibud, I want Adim to be witnessing it, sure, that makes you collect from the Chosim Shuvadim, because that means the star from its inception, from the time that the loan occurred, there's Adim involved. That's why you can collect from the Chosim Shuvadim. I think you were saying something like that. But here it's a regular IOU note that you went a week or 2 weeks later to Bezdin. How will that retroactively make this star into a milva b'star? Let's see the verse inside. Hachi Gersina. Shiny Hasam, the B'shas Ksiva, who the Shibud Nafshe. Kishenichtav a star, in the case where there were two Adim that witnessed the transfer of the star from the Levi to the Malva, there the star was nichtav kedei l'masrei b'fnei Adim. The whole idea was, I'm writing the star with the intention that I'm going to give it to the Malva in front of Adim and create a halva with Adim. You Adim Mesira b'makam b'dei chasima. Instead of having Adim sign on the star, I was relying on Adim Mesira. But the transaction was done lechatchila with Adim. Hilchach. Even the Rabbi Lazar Adim Mesira karsi. Since according to Rabbi Lazar that Adim Mesira do impact the kashrus of the star, will say kilu nechtabu b'toich ashtar dami. Since this transaction was made with Adim, we will consider it as if these Adim signed that star, because two Adim witnessing something is the same or better than two witnesses signing on the star. Avalanan, but our shaila is something else. And I think this is what you said, Mati. Avalanan mi bailan, our shaila is v'haitzi olav ksav yadoi ba'alma to shmoi shaloi v'chasam boy. There were never Adim at all. It just happens to be an IOU note. Shezem masaloi b'makamedah. Instead of being moider verbally, I wrote you a IOU note. So I won't be able to deny it in the future, and say that I paid, because I won't be able to say parity, because you'll ask, if you paid, why don't you have the star? Why am I still holding the star? my boy. So let's look at the page a second. Biyad malva v'loy nasa. Instead of shin, first of all, v'loy nasa star b'loshin shel star shedim chsum boy. The star from its inception was never written like a star, like a milva of a star. It's only v'acher zmanach sika b'bezin, the regular personal RU note, that the bezin verified that it's a legitimate RU note. But that doesn't change the star from its conception. When the loan occurred, it was a milva al peh. They can't retroactively make this whole star into a milva b'star. When he originally wrote it, he never wrote it with the das to make it into a milva b'star, because he never even had Eidim Asir there. This is what I think is pshat, and I like my pshat. The istagasi mishas haksuva, referring to ksuba, they don't know what they're talking about. Usually when the Rashbam says that, Toshis usually supports that other shita, but I think here Toshis as well also says that ksuba is the wrong here. Okay, Gavaltik. So a star that was originally written to be a star, but you're using the Eidei Mesira method instead of the Chesima method, that's legitimate, a star, and therefore you could run from the Chosim Shabbatim. But an IOU note, which was never a milva b'star, no matter what Bezin does to verify it and validate it, it doesn't change the fact that this milva was not a milva b'star. Okay, Gavaltik. Zok Gemara Vayta. The next line of the Mishnah, the Gemara's Mefarish, is Arev Hayotzi Lacha Chisim Shtaris. The Arev signed after the Eidim had already signed. So we said that this Arev is not the reason for the transaction, right? So we had a machlokes in our Mishnah if it's not an Arev at all, and that was bananas, right? We went bananas yesterday, right? Bananas held, since the Malva didn't give the money to the Loiva based on the Arev's guarantee, because you see the transaction happened even before the Arev is mentioned, it's not a good Arev. But I think as Rabbi Shmuel said, that you could only collect from the Chosim b'nei Charen, not from the Chosim Shabbat. So Amarav, Koidim Chitim Shtaris. What if he signed before the Eidim signed? There you say Goiva min Chosim Shabbat. There we'll say that when the Eidim signed, they're also signing on the his chayvus that the Arev took upon himself. But la'arach Chitim Shtaris, if the Arev only signed after, then Goiva min Chosim b'nei Charen. You will still collect from Nechosim b'nei Charen. Zimnin Amarav. Sometimes Rav said otherwise. He said, "Afilu koidim chitim shtaros." Even if they signed, even if the Eidim signed, even if the Arev signed before the Eidim, so it looks like the Eidim are signing on the Arevis as well. Still, nevertheless, Eina Goiva Ella min Nechosim b'nei Charen. It still doesn't make it into an Arevis bishtar that will allow the Malva to collect from the Arev even the Chosim that he sold. Rav seemed to have contradicted himself, because in one place he said that if the Arev signed before the Eidim, that's a regular Arevis b'shtar, and the Malva can collect from the Chosim Shabbatim. But in the other place he said, no, you cannot. So it had a whole Nusach Hashtar, and then after the Nusach Hashtar it says Ploini Arev, which is like a new comment, right? Ploini Arev will be a brand new comment. So when Eidim signed underneath that, who said they're referring to both comments mentioned earlier? Maybe they're only referring to one of the two comments. Maybe they're only signing on the shtar itself, but not on the second paragraph of Ploini Arev. But ha tichsiv be u Ploini Arev. But if it is u Ploini Arev, that means when the Arev is signing on, it's just an add-on, and it's connected to the paragraph before that talks about the loan. So then when the Eidim are signing, they're actually signing on both. The fact that it has that vav doesn't automatically connect it and make it into one paragraph that the Eidim are signing. Let's see the Rashbam. Poloni Arev, Hifzik Inyan. That seems to say, okay, we finished with the first paragraph that talks about the star. Now we have a different comment. And therefore, maybe when they sign, they're only referring to the chayv recorded between the malv and the loiva. They're not referring to the secondary and separate transaction of the arv. But if that uploading arv with a vav, most of al then we look like it's all one big comment. V'al ashtar v'al ha'arevus chasimu yisad. Beautiful. So that is, we have a machlokes whether you need that vav to connect it, or maybe even the vav won't help, right? The Rebbe said the vav will not even help. So let's go back over here. How the cost of a pliny arv, how the cost of a pliny arv, Rav says that vav makes a distinction. It doesn't matter, even if it says the vav, it's not connected. So when Edom are signing, they're not referring to the arevus, they're only referring to the actual star. I'm not sure what it would have to say according to Rabbi Yochanan to make the arevus into a milvah star. Maybe it has to be a second set of signature, I'm not sure. Most of Rabbis, effect Rav Akash. Edom achasumin al shilash shalom beget. Also, let's say there's a get, and in the get it says it's a written from a husband to his wife. So it says, "Dear Rivki, how are you doing?" And then it says, and then it has the whole nusach again, and then Edom sign at the bottom. That's a puzzle get. You know what? Maybe the Edom are signing on the first comment in the get, where he's just saying hello. We're Edom that he's saying hello to you, right? Who said they're signing on the get at all? We had this exact Gemara referenced a couple of blot ago. So Edom achsumin al sheilash shalom beget puzzle. You know why? Chayshinon shema al sheilash shalom chasmu. Maybe they're not signing on the get. Maybe they're only signing on witnessing that he said hello to her. I'm not sure why that needs Edom. Oh, it's written at the end? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for pointing it out. So who does he quote from that it was written at the end? Okay. The way I would understand Rabbi Yochanan's word is, well, from the Gemara right now, we're going to see quite clearly why it's at the end. Because if it says she'ilu pasal, if it has a nusach yet, then it says he also asked about your well-being. But there's no vav joining the two paragraphs. There it's possible because there we can say that the Edom were only signing on the she'ilu shalom, not on what's mentioned before, which is the nusach yet. But ushehilu, if it has a nusach yet, and then it says, and by the way, how you doing? Right? That means we're connecting them into one paragraph. That would be kosher. So Zog to Gemara, Hachadami. I'm sorry. Next to, once we're not married, I'll be very nice to you, but I can't be married to you because a love-hate relationship. Pacific Shady is not bad. Very good. So Zok to Gemara, the Mivrish Lemined Rabbi Yochanan is she'ilu pasol she'ilu kosher. Hachadami, the cause of Ploini Arev. It's when did Rabbi Yochanan say that the Edom are not signing on their Revis? That's only if it's Ploini Arev. Frank Gemara, that's exactly what we quoted from Rav. Rav was the one who made that distinction between Ploini Arev and Uploni Arev. So Yochai Hainu the Rav. When you look at the Gemara, it sounds like Rabbi Yochanan is a dissenting opinion to Rav, right? What did the Gemara say? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Echad Echad. So it's very mashma that Rabbi Yochanan is arguing with Rav. Okay, so it's not, but it's not that way. Ema v'chein Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is agreeing to Rav that if there's a vav connecting the two comments, then the Edom is signing on both comments. If there is no vav, then they might be two independent comments, and maybe the Edom is only signing on one, not on the other. It's just interesting to note that in the case of the shtar and the Orev, we'll say the Edom is not. By the get, you say there's a get, which is the main focus of what's written there. Then there's the she'el shalom. Well, what does Rabbi Yochanan say? If they sign, they're only signing on the she'el shalom, not on the get. But in the case of a shtar, we want to say the same thing, that they're only signing on their revis, not on the choiv, and it's not even a middle of a shtar to begin with. You don't say that. You say for sure they're signing on the choiv. The question is whether they're signing on their revis too. But again, he looks at it exactly the opposite way. I'm not sure why, but there's clearly that distinction. Okay, so the Gemara weiter. Maisa ubal lefnei Rabbi Shmuel. Right, this case came to Rabbi Shmuel where there was a Orev who signed after, and Rabbi Shmuel said that the Aravis is good. It's just not able to collect from the Chosum Shabbat. Amar Rabbi Bar Bachana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Alpha P, Shakiles, Rabbi Shmuel's bananas. Rabbi Shmuel made a whole big deal about bananas. We saw in the Mashal yesterday that bananas did it the right way. He heard of it on the Zikin, and through that he was able to get into Din Nefoshes. Unbelievable, what unbelievable pshat he had. But the halacha k'moisai, nevertheless, the halacha is like Rabbi Shmuel. We don't pass like bananas. So in fact, it's a good arevis. It's just not an arevis b'shtar where you can collect from the Chasam Shabbat. So we made such a big deal about bananas. The way I like to it is Rabbi Shmuel went bananas over bananas, but nevertheless, it didn't help. Iboilahu. What would be the halacha? Bechanuk Mali Amar Rabbi Shmuel. What did Rabbi Shmuel say in the case of the example that bananas quoted? Bananas said, you know why I don't believe the guy's an Arab at all? Because what if Reuben owed money to Beryl, and Beryl saw Reuben in the shuk, and Reuben wasn't paying, and Beryl pushes Reuben against the wall, and he's choking to death, said, pay me or I'm going to kill you. And some third party, Shimon, came along and said, let go of him, I'll pay you already. So there, Bananas says clearly over there, the Arab is not chayiv because he really never meant to be mechayiv himself. He was just trying to get Beryl to release the grip that he had on Reuben's neck. So what would Rabbi Shmuel hold in that case? Zot Rashbam Chanuk Mali Amar Rabbi Shmuel. The Dilma Mishum Tzaira the Chavrei Shenechnak Nami Gomer Amik. You always say if there's some type of compelling reason why I would be mishabed myself, then maybe I would be mishabed myself. Well, here there's a very compelling reason. I'm trying to save somebody's life. So maybe that compelling reason would actually make it that the Arab wants to be mechayiv himself. That's on one side. Oidilma, no. Mischaven hula tziloi mechanika. Umitzu dekavi. All he wants to do is save the guy. He never wants to help. Similar to the svara that we had by Ksuba, that an Arab and Ksuba is not really being mechayiv himself. He's just trying to do a good deed and get them to marry. But he's not really want to stand behind it. So he doesn't want to save the guy's life. But I don't give two hoots about your chayv. I didn't cause any damage over here because you had already given him the money. So I'm just trying to get you to let go of your grip on his neck. When I'm signing on an Aravis at the beginning of a chayv, there, because of me, you're losing money because you're laying out the money, right? Here you laid out the money months ago. Now you lost the money already. So therefore, I don't feel so responsible for that chayv. I'm just trying to get you to let go of him. And therefore, so that was the shayla. What would Rabbi Shmuel do with Bananas' example that Bananas used to try to convince Rabbi Shmuel that Orav Lachachitim Shtaris is not an Orav at all? So Zok Gemara Amar Rabbi Yochanan Chalak Haya. I'm sorry, Iboilu B'Chanak Mali Amar Rabbi Shmuel. What did Rabbi Shmuel say in that case? Tashma Damar B'Yakov Amar Rabbi Yochanan Chalak Haya Rabbi Shmuel Af B'Chan. In fact, Rabbi Shmuel holds even in that case the Arab is Meshubit and he will have to pay back Beryl. Do we paskin like Rabbi Shmuel in that aspect, and will we be mechayiv the Arab now to pay Beryl? Tashma the Chiyasa Ravin Amar Rabbi Yochanan Chalak Haya Rabbi Shmuel Af B'Chanuk v'Halacha K'Maisay Af B'Chanuk. So we have an edus, in fact, that we paskin like Rabbi Shmuel across the board, not like Bananas. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel Chanuk v'Kanu Miyadoi Mishtabit. If an Arab is walking by, Shimon's walking by, and sees Beryl choking Reuven, and he says, I will pay, don't worry, let him go, and they made a kinyan, then it will create a shibud. Mechalal the Arab ba'alma loy by kinyan. It's mashma that a regular Arab doesn't need a kinyan. It only needs a kinyan when there's such a scenario going on. Upligader Rav Nachman, this is not consistent with what Rav Nachman paskin. What Rav Nachman paskin? Orav the Bezdin who deloy kinyan. What type of kinyan doesn't need what type of aravis doesn't need a kinyan? That's only if it's in Bezdin. Why is that? Dr. Rashbam, because there's another compelling factor why we would say that the Orav truly intended to be mechayiv himself, because the bahiyah no, the kamahemni leila bezdin gorim mishabenafshe. If Bezdin arranged it, that means Bezdin is testifying that this fellow, this Orav, is very trustworthy. Bezdin is using him as an Orav that wouldn't need a kinyan. But a regular Aravus, where Bezin wasn't recognizing somebody, Avada, you would need to do a kinyan. The Hilchazah and the Loch is Arav B'Shas Matan Mois. If someone obliges himself to be an Arav during the transaction while the mob is laying out the money, Loi Boy kinyan. But Acher Matan Mois, but if the loan was made and an Arav came along later, there, Boy kinyan, it would need a kinyan to be Mechayiv the Arav. Dr. Rashbam, Vilchaza Arav B'Shas Matan Mois Loi Boy kinyan, the Imkosav B'Soich HaShtar La'acher Chitim Shtarois Goiva Minachasam Mishabod. You would be Goiva Minachasam Mishabodim, but that would make sense. The Tziyonim say Koidim, right? The Imkosav B'Soich HaShtar Koidim Chitim Shtarois. So then we consider the Aravis also part of the Shtar, which creates a Chrayas. Therefore, it will be Goiva Minachasam Mishabodim. But Shaloi B'Shas Matan Mois, if an Arav came along later, in order to be Mechayivim, it would need a kinyan by kinyan. Va'afilu chosam b'soich hashtar, even though the Arav signed on the star, but he signs after the Eidim on the star, that would not be Meshabbat him to collect from the chosam Meshabatim. V'chosam la'achar chitum, if the Arav signed after the Eidim signed, so it's after the star was written, then boy kinyan, in order to Mechayiv the Arav, he would actually have to have a kinyan. But even if there was such a kinyan to oblige the Arav, the Goyim of the Charin, it's still not an Aravus Pishtar, because the Eidim are not on that Aravus, and therefore the Malva would only be able to collect from the Charin. Okay, we'll save the rest for the Siyum Beis Hashem on Sunday. And now we can start the next Masechta, Maseches and Hedron. We haven't even finished. It was finished making Zim. They're having a mega Shalosh Shutness for breakfast. Yeah.
Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov. We were zoiche to finish the Meseches Nezikin as it's known in the Rishonim, and we should continue to finish the Seder Nezikin, and then comes Kochim and then Tyrus, and then we start all over again. Baruch Hashem. We should all be healthy and strong and wealthy, and we should have Torah in your Shemaim and all the brachas that the Torah brings along with it. Okay, let's start Sanhedrin. It's a very, very long Mishnah. So, Stefansky's Stefansky's group is making in Krima. Oh, I thought it was open to the public. I didn't have that. It's by invitation only. In Krima. Oh, really? So they're having a whole thing.
Yeah, he's coming in for a big Shabbos.
This Shabbos?
He's coming in. And they're going to the Haman, whatever it is.
Really? Oh, wow, beautiful. Listen, he has proliferated the Yomi in a beautiful way.
Not here in Toronto.
No. That's what they do the conventions and all that.
Like where the good conventions are.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm telling you, everyone's copying the Deer Shoe style. Dr. Gemara.
Up to them.
Dr. Gemara, Dine Mominus Bishloisha. Dr. Gemara, Dr. Rashi. So we actually have to temporarily take a leave of the Rashbam, who we got used to, and now we're going back to Rashi. So we're going to have much more concise parish, but Rashi is, once again, as much as we enjoyed the Rashbam, Rashi is a very nice companion. So Dina Mamonis B'Shloisha, in order for a bezin to be able to pass on a Shana Dina Mamonis, you need to have 3 dayanim, B'Gemari Alfinal, who all of these halachas, the Gemara is going to bring a makarfa from the Torah. Gzeilois v'chavalois B'Shloisha. To pass on Gzeilos and Chavalois, you need three dayanim. And if you remember, the Mashal told us yesterday that Gzeilos and Chavalois are a level up from Milva. And if you work on the Zikin, you become smart and sharp, and then you can get upgraded to Paskan Gzeilos v'Chavalois, because Gzeilos v'Chavalois is what the Gemara refers to when the Gemara says that you'll be able to understand between Dinei Mamnis and Dinei Nefashos, because Gzeilos and Chavalois are in between Dinei Mamnis and Dinei Nefashos because they involved hitting as well. If I asked you a question, what is Gzeila? Tell me the most simplest case of Gzeila. What would you say? Reuben went to Shimon and says, "Give me your money." As simple as that, right? Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi says something very interesting. Koifer b'pikadon, the mishishalach boyat have a gasl. It's a very modern mice. Rashi does not pick a generic case. Yeah, but that's the v'chein. That's the second case. I would have said Gzeila v'chein shlichas yad. Right? So it's a little bit modern. the Rashi is throwing in.
Why do you think that?
Koiver. I'm sorry.
Why isn't it group them all together and just say four to one? Why do you think one is four to one?
Because every category is different, and there's going to be a different reason for each category why it needs these amounts of dianim. What is it? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different categories. So there's another issue with Rashi, and that is koiver b'pikadon. You're a gzeler, you're a gazlan. If you're a koiver b'pikadon, you're a gazlan. We learned that in Bava Metzia, or Bava Kama, I think. Or no, we learned that in Bava Metzia. If you're a koiver b'pikadon, right? So that's toin tanis ganav. You're chayiv kefil, right? You're a gazlan. Even before you actually used it. If you used it, that's called shlichas yad. That's a different category. For some reason, Rashi lumps them together. Koiver b'pikadon, the mishishalach b'yad have a gazlan. Who's talking about shlichas yad? Even if you never touched it, you were just koiver. That also makes you into a gazlan. So these are the things that are asked on Rashi. Which would be the standard vanilla case of Geneva, have a gazlan to go in the yigzol as a chanis miyara mitri. This pasuk is always used to describe the textbook case of gzela when you're grabbing something away from somebody else. But if you're talking about someone who borrowed money and didn't pay back, that's not called a gazlan. Like mikri gazlan, the milva loitani. Because milva means the moment you give me the money, that money is mine. I owe you separate money. So even if I didn't pay you back, I never took something away from you unlawfully. When you gave me the money, I had it as a loan. It's perfectly valid. Now I don't have anything that belongs to you. I just happen to owe you money. Therefore, the word gzela wouldn't be appropriate to describe somebody who doesn't pay back his loan. I'm sorry? Even if he's koifer, it's not gzela, because gzela means while the object is going from your possession to my possession, I'm taking it away from you unlawfully. In the case of a loan, when I'm taking the money from you, I'm taking it lawfully. I'm just denying that I owe you money. So that dinim mominus, but it's not gezelis v'chavolis. That belongs in Bava Basra. We're already at an upgraded case of between mominus and the fashas, like the Rashbam, like the Marsha describes it. Okay, you know, I think milva that you don't pay back, that's not called gzela. That's called a broken kneecap. Somebody who physically hurts his friend, like we learned in Bava Kama, the ish kiyitin mumba misoi ken yasaloi b'mamoin. The Torah says ken yasaloi, and we learned it doesn't literally mean you beat him up. It means that he has to pay the 5 payments. The Gemara is going to ask, so that standard dinim, why is chavolos different than dinim? Okay, nezek, the chati nezek. So nezek is the shor hamud, or adam shaziko. Either a shor hamud, you have to pay nezek if your ox damages somebody, or if you beat somebody up, if you damage, not if you beat somebody up, if you damage someone's property, that's called nezek. The Gemara is going to ask, why is that different than chavolos? Tashlum kefil is referring to Geneva Shnimsa Biyana. If you're caught red-handed with something that you stole, you pay kefil. The chsev mimatzei timatzei biyada hagneva shnayim chayim mishalom. Chayim shnayim mishalom. And then the shlumi above chamisha, we know is if someone stole a shor or a seh and he shechted it or he sold it. So that's also, you need a bezin of 3. Ha'oinis v'amafata. What about an oinis and a mafata? So we know if someone is ma'anis a naira or he seduces a naira, he has to pay a knas of 50 kesef. So what is that? That also is b'shloisha. The mochi shemer b'shloisha. Mochi shemer is someone who married a woman, claims she was not a basula. There he doesn't pay 50. There he pays 200 kesef to the father. For that you would need 3 bezin of 3. Diver Meir, but the Chachamim Maimrim, Mochi Shema is be'eshem shloisha. For Mochi Shema, you need a bezin of 23. Because what if his allegations are proven correct, that she was Mizana? If they sheyesh by dinin nefashos, it could lead to dinin nefashos. So, if you find out that there's emes to what he said, you then transfer to a new bezin? No, you start originally discussing this incident with a bezin that's able to follow through completely, even if it turns out to be true, they'll be able to paskin on the dinin nefashos as well. As the Rashbam says, as the Rashi says, dinin nefashos tim emes haya shezin tzatachtov he beskila. And we know the dinin nefashos bein chav gimel, you need a bezin of 23 to paskin for dinin nefashos. Makis is b'shloisha. What are makis? Malchus are boim. So if somebody is chayiv malchus, he was over alav, you need a bezin of 3 to paskin for that. Time of Rabbi Shmuel v'Rabbanon, we're going to have a machlokes here. The reason for the machlokes will be befarish b'gemara as to how they dash in the psukim. Rabbi Shmuel Amar it's be'esrim v'shloisha. Ibra chodesh. Ibra chodesh means they're adding a month. The Rashi is b'gemara mefarish, and I'm sorry. Ibra chodesh means they're adding a day to the month, but the Gemara is going to explain that. B'shloisha also you need to have a bezin of 3. Ibra Ashana. What if they want to add a month because the seasons are not lining up? Pesach is going to be in the winter. They have to add a month as well. You need b'shloisha. You need a bezin of 3. Diver Rab Meir, but Rab Shimon ben Gamliel Omer b'shloisha maschilin. When they start to discuss it, they'll have 3 there, and then once they get into the different arguments as to yes or no, they'll need 5 when they're getting into debating. But to actually paskin, they need 7 there. But Goyim b'shiva. What if they paskin when there are only 3 dayanim there? Muberes, it will work anyway. Ibra Ashana, so you bezdin yoishvim v'royin im trichin la'aver mipnei aviv because of the season, vatkufa, because the season changed, and we know we're trying to coincide spring, the beginning of spring, with Pesach. Kedamina b'gemara. Milsad Rab Shimon mifrasha b'gemara b'vaisa. All of this is going to come out in the Gemara. Okay, smichas kenim. What if we want to give smicha? Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. The Rashi says al roish par hel b'shol tzibur. The halacha is if there's a mistake made by the Sanhedrin, which leads to Klal Yisrael being over a chi of kares, so they bring a carbon that's called the par hel b'shol tzibur, and the schreinim have to do smicha on the par, the shas vidui, the arifas egla, and the process of egla rufa b'shloisha. You would need to have 3 dayanim. Divrei Rab Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'chamisha. You need to have 5 dayanim. Again, all of this will be elaborated on and clarified in the Gemara. That's because they're the fellows. Okay, so let's stop here and mention we'll continue tomorrow. Baruch Hashem, we're upgraded. We're following Bananas's curriculum, and we've just upgraded from Dina Mominus to the difference between Dina Mominus and Dina Nefashis. Okay, gewaltig. Everyone should have an awesome day. Maybe today will be